Today, I'd like to introduce you to a fascinating book titled, This Book May Save Your Life. The author, Karen Ren, is a surgeon who uses a humorous writing style to dissect the entire human body, aiming to help us avoid biological traps. What are these biological traps? The human body is truly a magnificent creation, a miraculous result of evolution. It's wonderful, always loving, and wants us to live well. Yet, throughout his medical career, Karen Ren discovered that there are parts of the body where even a minor malfunction can lead to death or a steady decline in health. These biological traps include, for example, our nose, which is a design disaster-prone to blockage, leakage, and abnormal hair growth. Without bones, things would be terrible. But if we suffer from back pain, neck and shoulder pain, or knee pain, our bones can become our prison. Our brain is like an outdated computer operating system full of malware, slow to load, and preferring entertainment videos over sleep. And there are many other biological traps. We need to be aware of these things in advance to prevent illness. Speaking of the title, This Book May Save Your Life. Don't immediately think of something as grand as saving someone with terminal cancer. This book simply provides you with fundamental knowledge about the entire body system. This knowledge may seem basic, but is incredibly essential for living with this body. Because when you understand your own body, you'll know how to make the most of the natural resources it provides, and thus be able to take the best care of yourself and your loved ones. I hope this book will bring you valuable health knowledge, helping you live healthier and with greater understanding. Now, I invite you to listen. Cherishing the beginning of your life. If we were to simplify the human body into its most basic shape, what would it be? That shape would be a tube. Our body is like a long tube, entering through the mouth and exiting through the anus. A doctor is essentially like a plumber, and your body is an entire underground pipe system that needs regular maintenance. If you don't know how to protect it properly, it will leak, get clogged here and there, and even have sewage flowing backward, and so on. Within the body, the digestive system is the central plumbing system, operated by a mysterious, intelligent device. And there's a not-so-romantic truth: our life begins with the anus. When you were a tiny embryo in your mother's womb, the first part to form was not the heart or brain, as many believe, but a hole. That hole gradually expanded, piercing through the embryo, and on the other side, it formed the mouth. Essentially, we were once a creature with a mouth and anus joined together. We began life as a lonely anus floating in the uterus, then gradually developed into intestines. The intestines began to twist and turn, creating a complex maze that would later be called the digestive system. After that, the entire embryo gradually completed its development. In short, we all begin life with a hole. But it is that very hole that helps us sustain life throughout. That hole creates the digestive system, and the digestive system is the core foundation of human life. So, if you want to live healthy and happily, cherish your digestive system above all else. To protect your digestive system, first, you need to know that the gut is also called the second brain. It possesses a certain capacity for thought. A gut-brain axis exists between the brain and the gut. This means that the state of your gut can influence the thoughts and emotions of your brain. Sometimes, whether you are happy or not is not decided by your brain, but by the condition of the beneficial bacteria in your gut. For example, when you're hungry, you tend to get irritable. This is because the gut has a direct impact on emotions. Therefore, if you want to live peacefully, nourish your gut microbiome. We need to know that the favorite feast for gut bacteria is fiber. Some types of fiber are called prebiotics, which are premium food sources that help beneficial bacteria thrive. Additionally, they also favor another group of compounds called polyphenols. These natural antioxidant molecules are abundant in fruits like blueberries, apples, especially apple peels, berries such as strawberries, raspberries, grapes, especially red and black grapes, citrus fruits, pomegranates, cherries, and so on. In vegetables, they are found in broccoli, kale, spinach, eggplant, carrots, sweet potatoes, legumes, nuts, whole grains, and even in nutrient-rich spices like turmeric, cinnamon, pure cocoa, dark chocolate, extra virgin olive oil, and coffee when consumed in moderation. These foods not only nourish the tiny inhabitants of your gut, but also help maintain a healthy microbiome. Conversely, when you eat too much red meat and ultra-processed foods, those items you can barely recognize from their original form, they often contain refined sugar, preservatives, artificial flavors, colorings, and repeatedly reused oils. All of these can disrupt the balance of your gut microbiome. Examples include sausages, bacon, deli meats, industrial canned fish, instant noodles, snacks, potato chips, packaged cookies, cakes, soft drinks, energy drinks, fast food like pizza and fried chicken, and industrial sauces, etc. Furthermore, consuming too much red meat like pork and beef can cause mild inflammation or increase existing inflammation in your body. The gut microbiome is like a small garden in your belly. If you feed it healthy foods, it will bloom brilliantly and return to you feelings of joy and vitality. But if you continue to water it with overly processed foods and fast foods full of preservatives, that garden will wither, leaving behind a mess of weeds that cause inflammation, fatigue, and long-term pain. Next, let's explore the esophagus. The human esophagus and trachea have an incredibly poor design. They share a common section of the throat, and these two tubes lie close together. This is why, when eating, food can accidentally go down the wrong path into the trachea and into the lungs, causing us to choke occasionally. As we get older, the risk of choking increases because the muscles in the throat and larynx gradually weaken and the swallowing reflex slows down. Elderly patients in hospitals are particularly susceptible to choking. When fed by others in a reclining position, small particles of rice can enter the lungs, leading to aspiration pneumonia. This is also one way the body can kill itself if we don't know how to administer timely first aid. If you encounter this situation, the simplest first aid is to forcefully strike the middle of the back between the shoulder blades with your hand. This can dislodge the foreign object. Currently, most first aid guidelines for airway obstruction recommend 5 back blows. But if this still doesn't resolve the issue, try the technique formerly known as the Heimlich maneuver. Wrap your arms around the person's mid-abdomen, then forcefully thrust backward and upward 5 times. If the person is still choking, call emergency services immediately. At the end of the esophagus, there is a part called the lower esophageal sphincter. If you don't chew your food thoroughly, this area is very susceptible to damage. Additionally, during stomach reflux, acid is the first thing that burns it. Therefore, eat slowly and chew thoroughly to reduce pressure on the stomach. When you eat quickly, swallow without chewing well, or eat while talking or looking at your phone, your body tends to swallow a lot of air, increasing pressure in the stomach and causing acid to be pushed back up. An ideal meal involves sitting upright, focusing on eating, avoiding lying down or bending over immediately after eating, and limiting spicy, sour foods, alcohol, etc. Bowel movements are very important and significantly affect health. Women are more prone to constipation than men because women have a uterus and ovaries, which means less space in the abdominal cavity, causing the intestines to twist more, easily becoming kinked, leading to more difficulty with defecation. According to medicine, if you have fewer than 3 bowel movements a week, it is considered constipation, and this condition is very harmful to the body. To avoid hemorrhoids, when defecating, we should not strain too hard, as this puts pressure on the anus. The time spent should be less than 10 minutes, ideally less than 5 minutes. To achieve this, we need to drink enough water, 6 to 8 glasses, and consume about 30 grams of fiber daily. Most modern people only eat about 15 to 18 grams of fiber daily. A common reason for this is the habit of eating in the wrong order, usually consuming rice and meat first, then vegetables later. By then, the stomach is nearly full, causing us to eat very few vegetables. Additionally, many people have imbalanced meal proportions, with carbohydrates and meat making up the majority, while vegetables, nuts, fruits, and whole grains make up very little. But in reality, it's not difficult to achieve. For example, you could start your day with a bowl of oatmeal, a banana, and a tablespoon of chia seeds, totaling about 12 grams of fiber. For lunch, eat a large bowl of vegetables or salad, a cup of brown rice, and half a cup of tofu or black beans, totaling about 12 grams of fiber. For a snack or dinner, you could have a sweet potato, an apple, and a handful of almonds or sunflower seeds, totaling 10 grams of fiber. This alone meets the recommended intake. In addition to paying attention to your diet, we also need to pay attention to our defecation posture. So, which posture makes defecation easiest? Doctors have shown that the squatting posture is the most natural and effective way to defecate. However, nowadays, most households use sitting toilets, which create a 90-degree angle between the torso and legs. This posture causes the rectum to bend, making it difficult for stool to pass and easily leading to constipation. Also, note that laxatives, whether oral or suppositories, should not be overused as they can harm the gut microbiome. A simpler and safer method is to place a small stool under your feet when sitting on the toilet to raise your knees, bringing your body closer to a squatting position. If you don't have a stool, you can lean your torso slightly forward, which also helps make defecation easier. Another very important thing is to always close the toilet lid before flushing. Why is this important? Because in many homes, the toilet and sink are in the same space. When the water flushes too forcefully, tiny fecal particles full of bacteria are sprayed into the air. If they enter your mouth, eyes, or nose, they can cause infections in your body. Therefore, always close the toilet lid before you flush. This is a very small habit, but it is extremely important for protecting your health. After using the restroom, you should observe your stool a little. It might sound gross, but just a small observation could save your life. If your stool is gray-white like clay, it's a sign of bile deficiency, and you need to see a doctor immediately. Dark red or black stool could indicate bleeding in the digestive tract, often accompanied by a metallic odor. In addition to color, the stickiness and shape of the stool also reflect your body's condition. For example, if stool floats and has an oily sheen, it's very likely that your pancreas is having trouble producing enough enzymes to digest fat. Finally, to maintain a healthy gut, you also need to exercise regularly, not hold in bowel movements or urination. And ideally, make it a habit to have a bowel movement at a fixed time each day. Activating your sixth sense, the best way to keep your bones and joints healthy. When it comes to the musculoskeletal system, there are 3 issues we need to pay special attention to. First, degeneration. Second, the knees, and third, the lumbar spine. These are not only the most vulnerable areas, but also critical weak points of the body as we enter middle age. First, regarding bone and joint degeneration. After the age of 40, bones begin to shrink, bone density decreases, and our bodies gradually become shorter. This is a natural process, but can be slowed down if we proactively care for our bones properly. To prevent this, adequate calcium intake is essential. In addition to familiar dairy foods like cheese, you can increase calcium through dark green vegetables like kale. Green vegetables can also be a rich source of calcium for your body. However, merely eating calcium-rich foods is not enough. The body also needs vitamin D because vitamin D helps the intestines absorb calcium more effectively. So, where do we get vitamin D? Besides dietary supplements, you need regular exposure to sunlight. Only when exposed to the sun can the body naturally synthesize and metabolize vitamin D. This is a complex lifestyle and nutritional issue, but it is incredibly important. The second issue is about the knees. With every step you take, your knees have to bear a weight 6 times that of your body. Throughout our lives, our knees endure immense pressure from millions of steps. Therefore, it is absolutely essential to protect your knees well. Otherwise, in old age, you might need an artificial knee replacement. Here, the author points out a common mistake. Many people avoid exercise to protect their knees, but in reality, observe older adults. You will see that those who exercise more tend to have healthier knees. In weight-bearing exercises like running, the knee joints bear a load, but this compression is actually good for the joint cartilage. Each step of running is like squeezing a sponge, pushing out waste and drawing in new, nutrient-rich fluid. Of course, the important thing is to exercise moderately and avoid overtraining. Next is the third issue, the lumbar spine. When we walk, our body always rotates slightly, because if it didn't, the rebound force from the ground could cause you to fall backward. This rotating motion helps balance the ground's reactive force, allowing us to move forward. But this rotational movement is also the cause of many back problems, especially lumbar disc herniation. Between each vertebra is a layer of collagen cartilage cushion containing a gel-like substance, also known as the nucleus pulposus. Throughout our lives, we rotate millions of times. This gradually wears down the hard outer shell of the disc, and when the nucleus pulposus spills out, we suffer from disc herniation. Worse, it can compress nerves, causing pain and numbness, even spreading to the lower back, buttocks, and legs. The way to prevent these consequences is to strengthen the core muscle groups. For example, plank exercises, basic Pilates movements, or yoga poses like Navasana, boat pose, or Utkatasana, chair pose, etc. One more thing we need to pay special attention to is excessive head-down phone usage, which can cause problems with the cervical spine. In this day and age, this has become such a common ailment that many people take it lightly and consider it normal. But by indulging ourselves and accepting to live with this misalignment, the consequences will be unpredictable. The cervical spine will gradually degenerate, causing pain, stiffness, and potentially leading to spinal deformity in the long run. Finally, a rather interesting point is that we can absolutely protect our bones and joints by using our sixth sense. It might sound like a joke, but the author is quite serious. The sixth sense is proprioception, an inherent ability that we are not consciously aware of possessing. The more your body can self-regulate and self-balance without conscious thought, the lower your risk of injury and musculoskeletal pain. In other words, we instinctively know how our joints should function correctly. Simple balance exercises can enhance this sensory ability. For example, closing your eyes, standing on one leg with a slightly bent knee. This action forces the muscles around the knee to work harder to maintain balance. The more regularly you engage in physical activity, the more naturally your body and brain will know what to do. And this is precisely how your sixth sense becomes sharper and your body becomes smarter. This subtle harmony between awareness, sensation, and movement is the deepest secret to keeping your bones and joints supple, flexible, and resilient over time. Cherishing your command center, the brain needs daily cleansing. Now let's talk about the brain. The human brain weighs about 1.3 kg, accounting for only 2% of body weight but consuming up to 20% of stored energy. The brain is extremely energy intensive, so when you think a lot, you'll feel tired and hungry quickly. The brain is the body's command system, but it's not the ultimate supreme board of directors. The DNA genes are the root decision-making organ. The brain is more like a CEO. This commander has about 86 billion neurons. That number alone is enormous, not to mention the countless connections between them. There's an old rumor that humans only use less than 10% of their brain's capacity, but that is completely false. In reality, all our activities use the entire brain. Different regions of the brain always cooperate closely to accomplish every task. Once the brain is damaged, the body will fall into disarray because every organ receives commands from the brain. Therefore, to protect the brain, first, pay attention to preventing severe impacts to the head. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, is the result of repeated head concussions. If you've had 3 or more concussions, your risk of CTE is very high, so the brain must absolutely not be subjected to frequent impacts. Another way to protect the brain is to get enough good quality sleep. Without sleep, humans would go crazy because during sleep, the brain performs self-cleansing. Every day when the brain is active, it produces a lot of waste. These are cellular debris and metabolic waste products. During sleep, cerebrospinal fluid circulates more vigorously, flushing away this waste, helping the brain rest and recover. If you frequently suffer from insomnia or shallow sleep, this cleaning process will be disrupted, leading to the accumulation of toxins, which reduces memory, concentration, and increases the risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, the most common form of dementia. This disease gradually deprives patients of the ability to perform daily activities, ultimately severely impacting their lives. This disease often appears in people over 65. Therefore, from now on, prioritize your brain, take care of your sleep in the simplest way. Go to bed at the right time. Another important thing is to use your brain correctly. Don't multitask. For example, eating while looking at your phone and browsing the internet will make your brain very tired and also harm your stomach. The best method for brain maintenance is to exercise your brain by regularly learning new things. Don't rush to retire your brain. When you truly do nothing, no longer have any goals, that's when you age the fastest. The brain will degenerate very quickly. Therefore, every day, do something to stimulate your mind, such as learning a foreign language, solving a math problem, acquiring a new skill, reading a book, etc. Also, communication, meditation, and deep focus all help maintain brain health and activity. When you feel stressed, you can try a completely natural way to reduce pressure called the mammalian diving reflex. Just get a basin of cool water, hold your breath, and submerge your face in it. You will quickly reduce stress instantly because this reflex automatically activates. Your heart rate slows, blood vessels constrict, and blood is diverted to the heart, brain, and lungs, helping you quickly regain composure. This is a natural biological mechanism possessed by all mammals. Understanding the mystery of the heart and how to prevent illness. Next, we will talk about the heart. Does the human body have any superfluous parts that also pose a potential risk to our lives? Many people immediately think of the appendix, but in reality, science has proven that the appendix is not a useless organ. It still has a certain role. In our body, there is a mysterious organ called the left atrial appendage. This is an appendage of the heart, and the vast majority of people are unaware of its existence. It's like a superfluous accessory, with no clear specific function, yet it can become a potential source of the leading cause of death: stroke. When blood passes through the left atrial appendage, a blood clot can sometimes form. When that blood clot solidifies, if this clot travels through the bloodstream to the brain, it can cause a stroke, such as a cerebrovascular accident or a wind stroke. Approximately a quarter of all strokes are linked to the left atrial appendage. To prevent stroke and protect cardiovascular health, the best approach is to change your lifestyle and diet to maintain stable blood flow and prevent the formation of blood clots. First, limit saturated fats, especially trans fats. These two types of fats increase blood lipids, easily causing blocked arteries and the formation of blood clots. They are abundant in red meat, fatty meat, chicken skin, organ meats, deep-fried foods, industrial candies, fast food, processed foods, and so on. Instead, eat foods containing good fats and supplement with plenty of omega-3 fatty acids. Examples include marine fish like salmon, mackerel, and tuna, nuts such as almonds, walnuts, cashews, extra virgin olive oil, flaxseed oil, or avocados, etc. Alongside this, you need to control your blood sugar levels, limit foods that rapidly increase blood sugar, and absolutely avoid sugary soft drinks. Refined carbohydrates like white rice, white bread, vermicelli, and steamed buns are the culprits that cause blood sugar to spike. A piece of advice to both control blood sugar and protect the digestive system is to change the eating order. Eat vegetables first, then protein and healthy fats, and leave carbohydrates for last. Instead of refined carbohydrates, choose whole grains, brown rice, and oats. Instead of snacks and fast food, choose whole fruits. Another important point is to lose weight and maintain a light body. This is crucial for cardiovascular health. Finally, keep your emotions stable. This is one of the most important secrets to protecting your heart. When emotions fluctuate strongly, the body releases large amounts of stress hormones that weaken the heart muscle. Not just sadness or anger, sometimes even excessive joy can damage the cardiovascular system or even cause sudden death if we don't maintain enough calmness and regulate our breathing. Protecting the gateway to life, lungs are more fragile than you think. Next, we'll talk about the lungs. The lungs are the only organ that refuses to work while in the womb. In other words, in the uterus, the lungs are inactive. Only when the baby leaves the mother's body and takes its first cry do the lungs begin to work for the very first time. From that moment on, the lungs become the first gateway connecting humans to the outside world. The lungs are an extremely sensitive organ and hate intruders. Any dust particles, bacteria, cigarette smoke, or chemicals that enter can cause the lungs to react strongly to protect themselves. Every day we breathe in about 20,000 times, which means the lungs continuously filter thousands of liters of air, including harmful agents that we don't even realize are there. Because they have to work nonstop, the lungs are very susceptible to damage, and they are more fragile than we think. When lung tissues become inflamed, scar tissue forms, and unfortunately, the lungs do not have the ability to fully regenerate like other organs. This means that even just one bout of pneumonia can leave permanent damage, causing lung capacity and gas exchange ability to gradually decrease over time. Therefore, cherish every breath, love, and care for your lungs even more. The lungs do not feel pain like the heart or stomach, so when they cry for help, we often don't realize it. Feelings of heavy breathing, shortness of breath, persistent coughing, or frequent fatigue even with light activity are early signals that your body is sending you. Proactively protect your lungs every day. Maintain a clean living environment, avoid cigarette smoke, fine dust, and harmful airborne chemicals. Develop the habit of deep and slow breathing. Maintain regular exercise like walking, yoga, qigong, or swimming to increase lung capacity, improve endurance, and naturally cleanse the respiratory tract. And most importantly, avoid getting pneumonia. Proper care for eyes, ears, and nose. In this final section, we'll discuss some basic knowledge on how to protect the health of your eyes, ears, and nose. Regarding your eyes, would you believe it if I said all humanity is blind? In fact, it's true because the human eye only sees 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum. This means over 99.9% of the world around us is completely invisible. Our eyes also have a design flaw. The images we see are actually inverted, but the brain automatically adjusts them so we perceive the correct orientation. To protect your eyes, the author advises applying the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes of screen time, look 20 feet, 6.1 meters, away for 20 seconds. And don't forget to play sports, exercise, or flexibly adjust your gaze between near and far. Your eyes will naturally adjust, and it's even better to exercise outdoors and observe your surroundings. This is the most comprehensive experience and best protects your eye muscles and eyeballs. There is something called optic flow. Optic flow is the sensation that surrounding objects move in the opposite direction when we move. Like when cycling on the road, you'll see trees on both sides receding. This state activates the parasympathetic nervous system, helping the eyes relax and expand their field of vision. Indoors, it's certainly possible to create a sense of optic flow, but the effect isn't as strong. Therefore, exercise more in the sunlight. Another very important thing is not to rub your eyes. Rubbing your eyes is an extremely bad habit that can deform the eyeball, cause many inflammatory conditions, and directly damage the cornea. Our ears can hear sounds thanks to the 3 smallest bones in the body and about 16,000 hair cells in the cochlea. These hair cells must be damaged by half before you even begin to realize that your hearing has significantly changed. But it's important to note that by that stage, all remedial measures will be futile. Therefore, to protect your ears, avoid prolonged exposure to loud sounds. Especially, you should not use in-ear headphones that go deep inside. If you must wear headphones, it's best to choose over-ear headphones, as in-ear ones are not beneficial for your ears. Finally, we'll talk about the nose. The author says the brain doesn't like the design of our nose. It always deliberately ignores the nose's existence. In reality, we always see the bridge of our nose, but the brain has learned to ignore that image so it doesn't obstruct our vision. Nevertheless, the nose is an extremely important part of the body. The way to treat your nose well is to learn to breathe through it. Don't breathe through your mouth all day. Mouth breathing will make your face long and narrow. More specifically, it can lead to respiratory problems and increased susceptibility to infections. For young children, parents need to correct their breathing habits so that children form the habit of breathing through their nose. When you have a nosebleed, many people often tilt their head backward, but that is an incorrect and dangerous method. If you're lucky, the blood will flow down into your stomach, causing diarrhea. But if unlucky, the blood could flow directly into the trachea, potentially threatening your life. Furthermore, tilting your head back does not help the nosebleed stop. The best way is to gently pinch the soft part below the bridge of the nose, sit upright, and slightly lean your head forward to prevent blood from flowing down your throat. If it still doesn't stop, you can place a small piece of paper between your upper gum and upper lip, or apply a cold compress to constrict blood vessels and help stop the bleeding. Another seemingly harmless but extremely dangerous habit is plucking nose hairs. When you pluck them from the root, you leave tiny open pores that are susceptible to infection. This is especially dangerous because the nose area lies within the danger triangle of the face, where bacteria can spread to the brain. Therefore, do not pluck nose hairs or squeeze pimples around the nose area to avoid life-threatening dangers. Do you see? These small pieces of knowledge about the body, which we should know as early as possible, are truly the key to living a full life, grateful for every second and minute. The body inherently loves us silently and unconditionally. It is a harmonious miniature universe, a miraculous machine that allows us to walk, stand, feel, and love. And even in the very last moments, as our breath slowly fades, this body ceaselessly strives to give you one final gift: the realization of the lessons learned from the entire journey of life. Scientists have discovered that an electroencephalogram, EEG, records brain activity continuing for a short period, even after the heart stops beating. Even more miraculously, these brain waves resemble the types of waves we see when dreaming and recalling memories. Therefore, in those final minutes, when the screen shows no more brain activity, people can actually rewatch their entire life flash before their eyes. The human body is truly amazing. We don't need to strive for a glorious life according to any social template. At the end of that road, perhaps we will realize that merely possessing a body that experiences this world through its senses is an unparalleled miracle. You don't need to exert yourself to achieve great accomplishments to deem this life worth living. Your very existence, along with this complex and intricate bodily machine, is already a legend. So, understand your body, cherish and love it. Take care of both your physical and mental health, learn to love your own life, and that is true maturity.